Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's CheckMate presentation. Today we're going to be talking about public speaking. So no need to fear, public speaking help is here. Now CheckMate is a series of workshops all throughout the semester, and they're devoted to academic enrichment and student development. So today's is very important, and all students are receiving a gold coin for coming and a little bit of candy. So let's go ahead and get started. I chose to talk about public speaking because it's one of those things that a lot of people are nervous about, and I'm not the best public speaker, so I think that's kind of the charm of this presentation, that I'm not the best and other people don't really enjoy it either, so it's just one of those things we have to work through together. Okay, so why is public speaking a thing anyway? I hear people say this all the time. Why can't we just avoid it? Why do we have to do it at all? But I came to college here, and I can tell you that I had to do projects probably every year that I was here. And when I think of public speaking, I think of my senior year when I had to do senior seminar, and that involved a big project that I worked on all semester and a 30-minute presentation that I gave to the class. So don't freak out on me now, because you have a whole semester to work on it. But it is important, and you do it in front of all of your peers. But the good thing is that they have to do it too, so you're not alone. So I was looking up about public speaking and trying to find a little bit of data about it, and I saw a study by someone named Gu, and they polled some older Americans and kind of asked them, what do the younger generations need to know in order to be successful in life? And the number one skill reported by 90% of the respondents was communication. So you have to be able to communicate with coworkers and clients, and if you're any kind of leader, that means that at some point you're going to have to stand up and speak to your followers. So that's why public speaking is a thing, and you're definitely going to have to do it here at Wesleyan. So let's talk about some tips to do public speaking well. So my first tip to you is to know the material you plan to talk about. So here's a funny video some of you might remember.
Recent polls have shown that fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is? I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as South Africa and Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S., or should help South Africa, it should help Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for us.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
I guess she doesn't consider Africa a continent, it's just South Africa.
So as you can see, that was a total mess, and everyone really laughed at her and made fun of her after it happened. But I feel like she could have done a much better job if she had just known the material that she was going to talk about. I'm not sure if they told them the questions ahead of time, but I feel like she had to have some kind of idea that question could pop up. So my first tip is to know the material. So I would start by checking the syllabus. Usually your professors will give you some information on what they expect from a presentation. And if you don't see it there, I would definitely go and ask them. You want to make sure you know what the topic is. You don't want to get up there and have prepared something for a completely different topic, and you're watching all your friends talk about something else, and you're like, oh, that is not what I prepared for. So make sure you know the topic. Then start asking about specifics. You want to know about the length. I had some presentations that professors said you have to do it in under 2 minutes, period, or you make a failing grade. So know the length. They may want 2 minutes, they may want 30. They may base it on the number of slides. I've had some professors say I want 15 slides only, so make it fit in that range. And some people may say, well, I just want you to cover a certain amount of information. So the length will vary based on your professor, but make sure you know what length they're asking for. And then ask about the specifications. Slide design, notes allowed, graphics. Do they mind if you have pictures? Are there Too many pictures? What should I do? You want to know the specifics from your professor. And just by knowing the specifics, it'll help you ease some of that anxiety so that when you get up there, you won't have any questions. You won't feel like, oh man, am I doing this wrong? You'll know what you need to do. And then you just need to research, read, and repeat. Make sure you know your topic. If you get up there and you're uncomfortable, everybody else is going to feel uncomfortable, and it's just going to make for a bad 10 to 15 minutes, however long you're presenting. So research, read, and repeat. Think of your presentation as telling a story that you know well. So that really helps when having to research. Prepare to tell the story. So imagine the outline of your presentation. So this is a 3-act story structure. You have the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. So in the beginning, you really want to hook your audience in. And that starts by saying like, hey, I did my research, I know my topic, and this is why you should pay attention. If you're really bummed out that you're up there, everybody's going to be really bummed out to listen. So make sure you get them right at the beginning, and then you can go from there. The middle, you need to have your data, your really rich information, so that you don't lose them. Because sometimes the middle is goes on and on forever. So really hit them with some hard data that they can remember. And then make sure you have an ending. So what if I just stopped my presentation right now and said, so there you go. It just feels like, well, that dropped off quickly, like I just fell off a cliff or something. So you need to have some kind of ending, resolve everything. One way that I usually do it, I summarize information, and then I explain what I want people to take away from the presentation. So that's kind of a little trick to if you don't know how to end something. So that way you just have to chop it off. From there, you'll begin to create the presentation. So this is kind of one of those things you want to talk about with your professor first. They may have a certain program that they want you to use. Right now, I'm using PowerPoint. So this one is widely used and accepted. I've never had a professor ask for a different kind of program. So it might just vary. And now they may ask for different kinds. But PowerPoint is really nice. It's fairly easy to use. Most of us grew up using it when we were in middle school and high school. It kind of goes in a linear kind of thought pattern. So you have one idea, then you move to the next, then to the next, then to the next. So that's really great for a lot of your basic presentations. You have really cool backgrounds, fonts, transitions, animations. You can make graphs. So there's a lot you can do with PowerPoint. It just depends if you want to use it. Then there's Google Slides, and that is almost identical to PowerPoint. I would say the main difference is that it's available kind of through Google Drive and it's internet-based. So if you're going to give a presentation in a place where you don't have internet, I wouldn't recommend using Google Slides because you aren't going to be able to pull that up. And if you did, if the internet connection is slow, it might cut you off. So just be aware that Google Slides could be problematic if you don't have a strong internet connection. And then there's one called Prezi. So I don't know if you've heard of that one. This one's kind of cool. This one kind of lets you think about your topic in kind of a mind map kind of way. So I don't have a marker, but kind of like when you're in school and you make a bubble map, you kind of don't go in a linear fashion talking about ideas. You have your main idea, then you branch off over here, and you come back and go over here. So I'll show you an example of a Prezi I made for the CheckMate program.
People are in here, so you can talk if you guys want to. She's giving a presentation to you guys.
I had to do, I don't like Prezi, but I had to do it for my senior year, my senior project. I didn't like it.
Prezi was the stuff in high school. You were fancy if you did Prezi.
I've never heard of it.
I didn't even, what, you still have a Prezi?
No, I've used like one of the PowerPoint things for Apple, and that's all I've done.
I was the Prezi queen back in high school.
Get up to Prezi.
Okay, so this is an example of a Prezi. So my main idea is to talk about Wesleyan, and then that's my little CheckMate what is CheckMate, and I explain it. And then I'm able to jump to my next idea, which is the CheckMate booklet, and I kind of tell them how I make it and how you can access it. Jump to talking about event examples. So these are the different kinds of workshops I'm going to be planning. And then the incentive program. And then I'm asking if anyone has any CheckMate-worthy events coming up. So that's just kind of my ending slide, and then you get to see the whole presentation kind of as a whole. So it zooms in and out and all around. So it's kind of cool. Some people prefer it and some people don't. So definitely talk to your professor first, because you don't want to make a prezi and he or she was hoping for a PowerPoint and then you don't make a good grade.
Right.
So slide design. People have many different opinions about how you should design your slides. I took a class in a community college, and they had a rule where we could have only 6 by 6. And this meant I had to have 6 bullet points and only 6 words per bullet point. So that was really hard because I'm like really detailed, so I wanted to give tons of information. So it made me be concise, but I felt really restricted and I felt like I left some stuff out. But just see, if your professor has a rule about bullet points, words on a page, whatever, just make sure you know. And so I kind of said, whose opinion matters? It's the person grading your presentation. And I know I keep saying this, but it's really true. You're trying to make the best grade possible, so you want to appeal to the person who is grading you. So see what they want for your slide design. General rules of thumb, these are things that most people agree about when it comes to slideshows, is don't be too text heavy. I think this presentation is actually pretty text heavy, but it's just for the special purposes of this. And then don't use too many pictures. So if you just have a slideshow, picture after picture after picture, and no information, then people probably aren't going to be interested, and it doesn't look like you've done a lot of research. And then don't use too many videos. If you're using videos to tell your story, then it just makes it seem like you didn't do any real work yourself. You just found videos and clicked play. And then the presentation is there to aid you, so you're not there to aid the presentation. So I'm supposed to be talking about something, and then you're able to look over here and just kind of have this support me. It's not my job to explain what is up here. It is helping me. So just try to think about that when you're designing your slides. And then practice your presentation. The first time that you give your presentation should not be in front of a crowd of people. You need to be doing it in your dorm room, in front of your friends, all alone in the bathroom, in front of the mirror, whatever it takes so that you have practice getting your words out and kind of knowing the natural flow. Figure out the timing. Like we said before, there might be length requirements. So I might have created this whole presentation, and I thought, yeah, this is definitely 30 minutes to an hour. And then I get up here, and it lasts 2 minutes. And that's just like humiliating, because I'm not going to make the grade I wanted. I feel kind of silly because I thought it was going to be way longer. So definitely figure out your timing. Practice first. Get used to clicking through the slides. So you kind of know, like, okay, if I press this, I'll go forward, go backward. You just want to be familiar, because that's going to help you not be as anxious when you're in front of everyone. Navigate your notes. So you don't want to be up here shuffling the whole time, because that's really distracting, and it just makes it seem like you're way more nervous than you are, and it makes everyone watching you nervous, and it just makes for a bad situation. And then see how your words flow. Like I said before, if you have like really weird wording, and then you try to get it out, and it just sounds like blah, 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 then you know you probably don't need to say that in front of everybody. And then make a note of where you need to pause and breathe. So this was kind of cool. When I was in high school, I was the valedictorian, and so they had a lady come in. You know what I mean? Yes. So they had a lady come in and look at my speech, and she made me write in like breath pauses so that I would remember to breathe. Because I was just like talking really fast and just trying to get it out, and I knew no one was going to be able to understand me, but I was nervous. So she said there were like speed bumps in my speech, and I had to breathe during those moments. So that might be something that you should try if you tend to talk really quickly. And if possible, try to visit the place where you're giving the presentation. I like to do that a lot. Like if you have access and you can get in there, it just helps you be more comfortable. Because like I know this room. I know a certain amount of people can sit on this side, a certain amount on this side. So I'm not completely uncomfortable with like how everything works and the computer and everything. So just get familiar if you can. And then think about giving the presentation like Steve Jobs. So I love my iPhone, so I always like to watch the presentations he used to give about the new technology that was coming out. And so I found this video on YouTube talking about kind of how he was so impressive and engaging when he spoke. And I thought he gave some really good tips. So we'll watch that.
Anyone who has watched the Steve Jobs keynote will tell you he is one of the most extraordinary speakers in corporate America. Who does the best job of that? While most presenters simply convey information, Jobs inspires. I'm Rob Miguel, and today I'll walk you through several key techniques that Steve Jobs uses to electrify his audience. There are elements you can adopt in your very next presentation.
Welcome to Macworld 2008. We've got some great stuff for you. There's clearly something in the air today.
With those words, Jobs opened Macworld 2008, setting the theme for his presentation and hinting at a major announcement of the day, the launch of the ultra-thin MacBook Air. Whether it's a new notebook or the iPhone, Jobs unveils a single headline that sets the theme.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Once you identify a theme, make sure it's clear and consistent throughout the presentation. Think of a staff meeting as a presentation. So let's say you're a sales manager introducing a new software tool to help your team generate, track, and share sales leads. You might think about the meeting this way. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I know you'll be really excited about this. Today we make it easier for you to make your quota. That's the headline. Easier to make quota. It's memorable, and it sets the direction for the rest of your meeting. It gives your audience a reason to listen.
So I've got 4 things I'd like to talk about with you today. Let's get started.
Steve Jobs always provides an outline for his presentation, and then verbally opens and closes each section with a clear transition in between. Here's an example.
So that's time capsule, a perfect companion to Leopard, and that's the first thing I wanted to share with you this morning.
The point, make it easy for your listeners to follow your story. Your outline will serve as guideposts along the way. You'll also notice that during his presentations, Jobs uses words like extraordinary, amazing, and cool. He is passionate, enthusiastic, and it shows.
Incredible, unbelievable, amazing, awesome, extraordinary year for Apple.
You know, your audience wants to be loud, not put to sleep. Too many people fall into this presentation mode. It's stiff, it's formal, it lacks pizzazz. We, your listeners, are giving you permission to have fun and to be excited about your company, your product, or your service. If you're not passionate about it, we're not going to be. Remember, Jobs isn't selling hardware. He's selling an experience. If you offer numbers and statistics, make them meaningful.
We have sold 4 million iPhones to date. If you divide 4 million by 200 days, that's 20,000 iPhones every day on average.
Numbers don't mean much unless they're placed in context. Managers, connect the dots for your listeners. Recently, I worked with a company that launched a 12-gigabyte memory card. 12 gigabytes! That number doesn't mean much to most people. Someone put it into context. We said that's enough memory to listen to your music while traveling to the moon and back. Now, 12 gigs means something to me. Make numbers meaningful. One of the most effective elements of the Steve Jobs presentation is that they are easy on the eyes. His presentations are visual and simple. While most speakers fill their slides with mind-numbing data and text and charts, Jobs does just the opposite. He uses very little text and usually one, maybe two images per slide. You see, you want to paint a picture for your audience without overwhelming them. Inspiring presentations are short on bullet points and big on visuals. If you really want your presentation to pop, treat it like a show with ebbs and flows, themes, and transitions. Jobs includes video clips, demonstrations, and yes, he also has a knack for dramatic flair that's very effective. For example, when introducing the MacBook Air, Jobs drew cheers by opening a manila interoffice envelope and holding the laptop out for everyone to see.
This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is.
What is the one memorable moment of your presentation? Identify it ahead of time, then build up to it.
A little help from our friends at the board today.
And finally, rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse some more.
Let me show you how easy that is now.
Steve Jobs makes it look easy because he spends hours rehearsing. He cannot pull off an intricate presentation, video clips, and demonstrations, and outside speakers without practice. The result, a presentation that is perfectly synchronized and looks, yes, effortless. Now, the average business person does not have the resources to create a Steve Jobs extravaganza, but you do have time to rehearse. The greatest presenters do it, and so should you. Oh, and one more thing. At the end of most presentations, Jobs adds to the drama by saying, and one more thing.
One last thing.
He then adds a new product or a feature, sometimes just introduces a band. This not only heightens the excitement, it also leaves your audience feeling they've been given an added bonus. The point is, Steve Jobs approaches each presentation as an event. A production with a strong opening, product demonstrations in the middle, and a strong conclusion. And yes, even an encore, that one more thing. I wish you a dazzling presentation.
Good morning, Richard. Go to the meeting.
Okay, so hopefully that was kind of interesting. I think he's a very good presenter, and so I thought that would be kind of cool to watch. So the next tip would be to practice how you will present yourself. And I thought this graphic was kind of funny because of the story I'm about to tell you. So my first tip is to kind of fake it till you make it. So if you're not very confident and on the inside you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I just hope nobody can see me standing up here, you have to fake it and pretend that you're not nervous. Stand up tall. So when I was in, I think I was in kindergarten, I was in a play and I went to a kindergarten at a church. So part of the play was to walk down the aisle and up onto the stage. And when we had practiced it, of course, parents weren't there, the place was empty, so it was totally cool with me, just walk down. But then, when it actually came time to do it, the whole church was packed out, it totally overwhelmed me. So I walked down the aisle like this. And so I think I was just thinking, like, if I don't see them, they can't see me, so I just like tried to hide behind my hair and pretend like it wasn't happening. But my mom and dad still have it on video, and so we watch it all the time in my house. So don't let this be you. So just have good posture, stand up straight. I've heard if you kind of like imagine that you have a string kind of running up your spine and holding you up to the ceiling so you can drop your shoulders and stand tall and also project better. Your voice, control your volume. So don't let but you don't want to scream it either because that could get really annoying for everyone. So control your volume, kind of find a happy medium. Smile. Smiling suggests that you're comfortable and happy, and then your people watching you, your audience, they'll be comfortable too. It kind of sets them at ease, lets you know you're okay. But if you have a very serious presentation, then you don't don't want to smile the whole time if you're talking about something that's really bad, because that might be offensive or just plain weird. So just at the very beginning, you can just be pleasant, say I'm going to talk about blah, 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 and this is very serious, and then you can get into it. Hand gestures. This is so hard for me, because I always feel like, what do I do with my hands? Like, do I let them hang low? Do I pretend like they're not there? Or do I just give really big gestures? So everybody says that you need to find a way not to like cross your arms, because that kind of feels like something's like weird between us, like I'm put out that I have to present you guys if I'm like this. But then if I'm just all over the place, then it kind of looks like I've had too much coffee. So find a way to use your hands to express your ideas, but don't be too crazy. And then eye contact. So in college, we had to do these presentations all the time. And so my friends and I kind of came up with a trick. And so there were 4 of us. So when one of us was presenting, we would kind of sit in different places in the room. And we would already know that when we got up here, I would look at Sarah, and then I would look at Temple, and then I would look at Emily. And so I would just make eye contact and then just kind of glide on over to the next person and the next person. And so nobody ever knew that I was doing, just looking at these 3 people who I felt comfortable with and not like looking at everyone, because it felt like.
I stare at the top of people's heads.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I've heard people say like stare at the wall, but that can get like really weird, because then you're just like.
That's why I like the top of their heads, you're not actually making eye contact, but it looks like it from a certain level.
Mm-hmm. So whatever works for you, fake it if you have to. Look at the top of their heads, look at your friend, and then look at another friend, and just kind of make it seem like you're looking out into the crowd, whatever it takes. Movement, make your way from around the podium. So I haven't really done that because I'm trying to stay in line with the camera. But you want to kind of give the impression that you're not just giving a speech, because that's usually very stationary. If you're presenting, kind of want to walk over, you can point at something on the presentation, just kind of feel comfortable, but you don't want to pace, because that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, and you're going to start talking fast, and it makes everyone else feel uncomfortable. So don't pace, but just give some simple movements to let people know that you're alive and you're comfortable moving around. So here's some general do's and don'ts, and these are things that I've heard just all my life as I've been preparing in school. So some of the do's, I'd start with looking at examples of great speeches. So like the speeches or presentations that Steve Jobs has done. Or you can look at TED Talks. We talked about these kind of earlier in another CheckMate session. They're really good for just having a way to learn about something quickly. They're not usually very long, and they're experts in their field, just kind of presenting on a topic they've done research on. So watch these TED Talks. These people are so comfortable. They go up there and they just talk like it's no big deal, because it's all in them. They're not having to refer to anything. They just click through a PowerPoint that does nothing but support them. So it's just awesome, and I'm just watching a lot of these TED Talks just to become a better speaker myself. Do sip water if it's allowed. I brought some green tea. So if you're allowed to bring green tea or water or whatever into wherever that you're presenting, then try that. Because when you're nervous, your mouth gets dry and then it gets harder to speak. So it's very helpful. It also gives you a reason to pause. So excuse me a moment. Take a sip of water, collect your thoughts, and then go on with your presentation. Do dress professionally. This kind of goes with the fake it till you make it thing. If you are feeling really insecure about what you're doing, are you talking about what I'm wearing? You need to look like you know what you're doing. So I wore like little fancy shoes. These are kind of new. I don't know if you can see them.
Wait, let me see. Let me see them. Let's look at
These are
them.
my new fancy shoes.
New fancy shoes. Yep.
Very cool. So it just boosts a little bit of confidence. Like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I can stand up here and do this presentation. So part of fake it till you make it, dress nicely. Do incorporate stories and even possibly like a little humor. It adds to kind of the feeling that you're a real person and you're not just a robot standing up here repeating facts and telling you what's on screen. As far as the don'ts, I think my biggest thing that I would say don't do is don't consume yourself with what other people are thinking about your presentation. And I know that's easier said than done, but the thing I would always tell myself is that when I was up there presenting in class for a grade, everyone that was watching me was about to have to do the same thing. And so they're not sitting there being like, well, that slide didn't make sense, or she fumbled her words there. No, they're nervous thinking about their own presentation. So don't worry about what they're thinking. They've got to row their own boat when it's time for them to get up there. So you just focus on what you have to do. And don't talk too fast, because people won't understand you. Don't lock your knees. I've heard this all my life. Because if you lock your knees, it restricts your blood flow and it can make you feel faint. So you don't want to faint. And don't read from a script, because if you have a script, then it kind of feels more like a rehearsed speech instead of a presentation. And usually your professors are going to want a presentation. And then don't miss your chance to earn a wonderful grade. A lot of times presentations are toward the end of the semester, and they kind of sometimes comprise a final grade. So definitely don't let your fear of public speaking hold you back from the grade that you really deserve. So you want to do the best you can and just say, you know what, this is for the grade, everybody's got to do it, and I'm going to do it my best. Okay, so nervous? Try getting excited. And I read this study and I thought I would share it with you guys. So people usually say when they're nervous about something, calm down, it's going to be okay. I do not like hearing that. When I'm upset about something, do not tell me to calm down, because it just doesn't make sense. So I read this article and I think it really makes sense to me. They say excitement and anxiety are arousal congruent. So this means that they're similar. So you kind of might be rigid, kind of have a lot of energy if you're nervous or anxious, and when you're excited. So you're kind of about the same experience. You have different concerns with being excited and being anxious, but they're similar. And so when someone tells you to calm down, it's harder for me to go like up here, anxiety, all the way down here, calm down. But what if someone said, instead of being nervous up here, be excited up here? So it's not much of a change in how you're feeling, but more about how you're framing your ideas about what's about to happen. So it's called reappraisal. So you want to reappraise your anxiety. And when she did the work with the different people, the respondents, it seemed to help in situations of public speaking, singing, and math. So kind of what you could do with this information is to start rephrasing how you talk about an event. So all today I've been like, I am so excited that I'm going to get this presentation over today. I was a little bit nervous because I was like, I wonder if anybody's going to show up. I wonder if it's all going to be for nothing and I won't have anyone pay attention to me, or I'll be too boring. But instead I was like, I am excited. I'm going to get it done today. Maybe someone will learn something. Maybe we'll have a really cool video to show. So just rephrasing, that's how I started. And then have others to encourage you to get excited about doing the presentation. Things to be excited about. So I know this sounds kind of dorky, but definitely try to be excited about the fact that you are physically capable of giving a presentation. You may not be. So you need to be thankful and excited that you are able to stand up and do your presentation. Someone or some group actually wants to hear your ideas about a topic, so that must mean you have something to say. You've been accepted into college, you're in whatever class you're in, and they want to hear your thoughts. And presentations are usually worth a lot of points, so they boost your grade. So you're thinking about getting a higher grade, get excited about that. And then you have the opportunity to get it over with. It'll be behind you in just a few minutes. And you get to prove to yourself and others that you are capable of giving presentations. So when you're thinking about, I am so nervous, try getting excited and let me know how it goes. So if you try it, email me at tmjackson@ncwc.edu and let me know, hey, this worked, or nope, that was some mess. It did not work at all. And I'm still nervous. So what if you are still nervous? So we're going to talk about managing anxiety. And I've got a little video from Professor Stephen Cohen, and he shares some tips for just how to manage your anxiety. He's a professor at Harvard.
The fear of public speaking actually arises from two primary sources: your personality and uncertainty. Let's start by looking at personality. The truth is that some people are more comfortable in social situations, whereas other people are less comfortable in those situations. Now, there's really little that we can change when it comes to our genetic predispositions. What we can change relates to that second aspect, that second component of why a lot of people fear public speaking, and that's uncertainty. There are lots of things that people are uncertain about. People might be uncertain about how their ideas will be perceived, how they'll be judged, or the impression that they'll make on an audience. The key is not to spend so much time worrying about that uncertainty, but rather focus on the opportunity that they have to stand in front of an audience and speak about something they care about. Let's talk about some sets of strategies that people can use to overcome that fear. The first category is called visualization. The idea of seeing ourselves being successful. The idea of seeing the sequence of steps that we're going to take from the moment we enter the room to the moment we get that applause at the end can actually help us be more successful. The second set of strategies that I want to talk about relate to anti-nervousness techniques or relaxation techniques. Now, there are all sorts of ways to relax before giving a presentation. One of the most common sets of exercises focuses on breathing exercises. The first relaxation technique that I want to talk about is the T repeater. Now, the T repeater is actually a technique that I developed to help my students relax before their presentations. The way it works is I encourage my students to turn their palms up, take a deep breath in, and then exhale the T sound. Doing so creates a sense of relaxation that often helps a lot of students focus on their message right before they get out in front of the audience. The next set of relaxation techniques that often work well involve eye contact, and one in particular that I like to emphasize is called easing into eye contact. Now, one of the reasons a lot of people are nervous is because they feel like people are judging them, that people are staring at them when they stand out in front of the audience. So what you can do, rather than look directly into the eyes of the people you're talking to, is ease into eye contact. Try actually looking at a person's forehead, or if they're wearing glasses, at the rims of their glasses. Doing so creates the impression that you're looking at them without actually looking at them. The third category related to overcoming one's fear of public speaking connects to practice. Now, we all know the maxim that practice makes perfect, but what's most important is that we're practicing in specific ways. What we want to do is actually speak as much of our presentation as we can. We actually want to speak in front of a mirror or in front of a webcam. That way we can see ourselves succeeding. Moreover, we can also be attentive to what we do well and what we can improve. One of the most important parts of the presentation to practice is the introduction and the conclusion. The audience will be drawn in by the introduction, and hopefully will be left with something to think about when it comes time for the conclusion. I want to emphasize that there's a real joy in stepping out in front of an audience, a real excitement that comes from sharing one's passion with a group of people. So we can't let the fear of public speaking paralyze us and inhibit our abilities to get to the next step, to get to the type of positions that we want and that we're ready for.
Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. I always say imagine or visualize yourself doing incredibly well. If you're always thinking about what's going to go wrong, then something probably will go wrong. So imagine yourself doing incredibly well and everybody really receiving whatever you have to say, and hopefully that will happen when you do it in real life. Another suggestion that I found a lot of places is to pray or meditate. I always pray and ask God to help me before I have to do a presentation because I'm usually pretty nervous and just like, oh man, I want to get this over with. So definitely if you need to pray or meditate, do so before you get up there and present, and I'm sure it will help you a ton. And then try some breathing exercises. So this one we can try together. You tense up different sets of muscle groups and just kind of like breathe in through your nose, hold, and then release your muscles and the breath from your mouth. So kind of like starting with your feet, kind of tense your feet up. And then I like tense my stomach. And then I'll do my arms. And it just kind of helps you kind of shake loose and not feel as tense if you're like bottling it up inside. So try a breathing exercise. And then I have a special video. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I definitely encourage you to try to watch it sometime on your own. This young lady has a speech impairment, and she's a singer. So it's kind of one of those strange situations where when she sings, she doesn't have the impairment. So she wanted to give her story and just encourage people that even if you have difficulties public speaking, that you still have a whole lot to say and you need to say it as best you can. So let's watch a little bit of her video. So the title of it is Why I Live in Mortal Dread of Public Speaking.
I didn't know when I agreed to do this whether I was expected to talk or to sing. But when I was told that the topic was language, I felt that I had to speak about something for a moment. I have a problem. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm fine. I'm not on fire. I know that other people in the world have far worse things to deal with, but for me, language and music are inextricably linked through this one thing. And the thing is that I have a stutter. It might seem curious given that I spend a lot of my life on the stage. One would assume that I'm comfortable in the public sphere and comfortable here speaking to you guys. But the truth is that I've spent my life up until this point, and including this point, living in mortal dread of public speaking. Public singing, whole different thing. But we'll get to that in a moment. I've never really talked about it before, so explicitly. I think that that's because I've always lived in hope that when I was a grown-up, I wouldn't have one. I sort of live with this idea that when I'm grown, I'll have learned to speak French, and when I'm grown, I'll learn how to manage my money, and when I'm grown, I won't have a stutter, and then I'll be able to public speak and maybe be the Prime Minister, and anything's possible, and, you know. So I can talk about it now because I've reached this point where, I mean, I'm 28. I'm pretty sure that I'm grown now. And I'm an adult woman who spends her life as a performer with a speech impediment. So I may as well come clean about it. There are some interesting angles to having a stutter. For me, the worst thing that can happen is meeting another stutterer. This happened to me in Hamburg when this guy, we met and he said, hello, my name is Joe, and I said, oh, hello, my name's May. Imagine my horror when I realized he thought I was making fun of him. People think I'm drunk all the time. People think that I've forgotten their name when I hesitate before saying it. And it is a very weird thing because proper nouns are the worst. If I'm going to use the word Wednesday in a sentence and I'm coming up to the word and I can feel that I'm going to stutter or something, I can change the word to tomorrow or the day after Tuesday or something else. You know, it's clunky, but you can get away with it. Because over time I've developed this loophole method of using speech where right at the last minute you change the thing and you trick your brain. But with people's names, you can't change them. When I was singing a lot of jazz, I worked a lot with a pianist whose name was Steve. As you can probably gather, S's and T's together or independently are my kryptonite. But I would have to introduce the band over this rolling vamp, you know, and when I got around to Steve, I'd often find myself stuck on the and it was a bit awkward and uncomfortable and totally kills the vibe, you know. So after a few instances of this, Steve happily became Steve. And we got through it that way. I've had a lot of therapy, and a common form of treatment is to use this technique that's called smooth speech, which is where you almost sing everything that you say. You kind of join everything together in this very sing-song, kindergarten, a teacher way, and it makes you sound very serene, like you've had lots of Valium, and everything is fine. That's not actually me, you know. And I do use that. I use it when I have to be on panel shows, or when I have to do radio interviews, when the economy of airtime is paramount. I get through it that way, you know, for my job. But as an artist who feels that their work is based solely on a platform of honesty and being real, that feels often like cheating. Which is why before I sing, I wanted to tell you what singing means to me. It's more than making...
Okay, so we're going to stop it there. And if you want to watch the rest of it, you can. Her name is Megan Washington, and she sings at the end, and she has a beautiful voice, and she just tells a little bit more of her story and why singing is so important to her. But I just thought she was so inspiring, and she just made me feel like, you know, I can do this. If I have to get up and say whatever it takes. Like, she just did such a good job, and I really enjoyed her video. My next suggestion is to come and talk to your academic advisor in the Student Success Center. I've helped some people with their presentations, like kind of how to put them together. If you want to come and practice giving it to someone, you can come and practice giving it to one of us, and we'll listen and kind of give you some helpful feedback. And take advantage of the licensed counseling services that Wesleyan provides. You can call or visit the Student Affairs Office, room 111 of the Harvey Student Union, and I'll put the phone number up there. Alan Harper would love to just help you work through any anxious feelings that you have. And lastly, I would just use our new slogan for Wesleyan, to believe in yourself, and just know that you can do this. People have to do this all the time, and I know that us battling bishops can stand up and do what we have to do. So now is the part of the presentation where everyone will come up and give a short presentation about themselves.
Come on, you tricked us.
Just kidding. Thank you so much for coming and listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.